In the beginning there were two people, just two. Adam and Eve standing at the threshold of a world they were never supposed to inherit. The garden was behind them now, sealed by flaming swords and the judgment of God. Ahead lay something far more uncertain, the untamed earth and the weight of a choice that would echo through every generation to come. Most people know the story of the forbidden fruit. But what happened after Eden? That's where the real story begins. Because exile wasn't the end of humanity's journey. It was the violent, chaotic beginning of everything we now call civilization. Genesis 3:23 tells us, "Therefore the Lord God sent him out from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken." Notice the language here. Not to explore, not to wander, to work. The ground that formed Adam would now resist him. The earth that once yielded freely would now demand sweat, blood, and pain. This wasn't just punishment, it was transformation. Humanity had gained knowledge of good and evil, and now they would learn what that knowledge actually cost. Adam and Eve didn't just lose a home, they lost access to the tree of life. Genesis 3:22 records God saying, "Behold, the man has become like one of us in knowing good and evil. Now, lest he reach out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat, and live forever." They were cast out not only for what they had done, but for what they might become. Immortal beings with the knowledge of divinity, but without the character to wield it. The exile was as much protection as it was consequence. Outside Eden, the world was silent. No voices, no civilization. Just two exiled humans and the raw, untouched earth. Genesis 4:1 marks the beginning of the next chapter. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, "I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord." This is monumental, the first birth. The first child ever born to humanity. Eve's declaration is loaded with meaning. I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. Even in exile, she acknowledges God's role. There's hope here. A belief that perhaps this son, this firstborn, could be part of the solution. Maybe even the one to reverse the curse. But Cain would not be a redeemer. He would become the world's first murderer. Genesis 4:2 continues, "And again she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground." Two brothers, two callings. And embedded in this simple description is the seed of all human conflict, the division of labor, the birth of economy, and the emergence of individual identity separate from one's parents. Abel tended life. Cain tended the earth, the very earth that was cursed because of his father. Genesis 4:2 continues, "And again she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground." Two brothers, two callings. And embedded in this simple description is the seed of all human conflict, the division of labor, the birth of economy, and the emergence of individual identity separate from one's parents. Abel tended life. Cain tended the earth, the very earth that was cursed because of his father. Then comes the offerings. Cain brings fruit of the ground. Abel brings the firstborn of his flock and their fat portions. Genesis 4:4-5 records the result. "And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard." Why? The text doesn't explicitly say, but the New Testament provides insight. Hebrews 11:4 states, "By faith Abel offered to God a more acceptable sacrifice than Cain." It wasn't about the type of offering. It was about the heart behind it. Abel gave the best. Cain simply gave. And in that moment, something dark stirred in the heart of the first son of Adam.